It's our last day. Woke up to a little fresh snow. So me and Nick put the whites on this morning. We're not going to go back to the same bean field that we sat last night until this evening. We managed to get out of there clean, so we're just going to leave that spot alone. Woke up this morning, got a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of snow maybe. It's warm. It's like 29 degrees. It's warm as it's been all week. And there's 0 wind. Not ideal. This would be perfect if we had a 15-mile-an-hour wind, but we don't. It's dead calm. So we're going to slide in here to the spot where me and Ted killed a big buck a couple years ago in the snow. Me and Nick sat here a few mornings ago when it was real calm. We just went in like 100 yards and sat where we could observe, and we saw some deer over here on these thick hillsides. Couldn't ever tell what they were. Those hillsides are south-facing, and they're so thick that they're hard to see up into unless you have snow cover. When you have snow cover, you can look into that white hillside. You can see deer moving across it better. So that's our plan. We're going to go in real early, try to get back in here and find a good setup where we can see up this transition that's full of honey locusts. And if we don't see nothing, we don't see nothing. I'm real confident about tonight. I'm not super confident about this, but you got to go in there and act like you're going to kill one so you don't make mistakes in the event that you do. See a big one. I just caught legs moving up in these trees over here. Well, we've had a change of plans. We almost killed a nice buck over here in this spot yesterday, and we've got that camera back there. Had it running the last couple days. This is where we've hunted the last 2 nights. And me and Nick tried to get over here early, and as soon as we got here, we noticed there was tire tracks in the snow. Pulled down here, and there's a fellow that's already parked here, and I got out and talked to him. He actually hunted this spot earlier this week and saw the same buck that we almost killed last night. So he's been hunting elsewhere the last few days and decided that this is where he wanted to try on the last day of the season. So he beat us here, and I told him we had a camera in there. I told him we seen those bucks out there last night, and then we've been hunting there the last 2 days. And he offered to leave. He's like, well, I don't want to step on your all's toes. If you're already been hunting in there the last 2 nights, he said, I can go somewhere else. But since he was hunting here before we even put the camera up, and he was super nice about it, I was like, I just told him what we saw.
and where those deer are coming out of. I mean, I told him the intel we've been getting off that camera too, so hopefully that helps him. I mean, he was planning to sit right where we were thinking about going anyway. So hopefully he gets a crack at one of them.
Yep.
And interesting thing, me and Nick put those cameras out yesterday on that field just for one day, and we got pictures of a nice buck coming out there yesterday, one that I would shoot for sure, and he was out 30 minutes before dark. So I'm a little bummed that we don't get to hunt that spot, but he's beat us there, like first come first serve, and there's not room for more than 2 people in there. Hopefully he gets a buck. We're gonna find out. He's gonna text us later and let us know. Hopefully he texts us a picture of that 10-pointer that we almost got.
We will know.
We gotta hightail it back over to the spot where I just pulled these cameras.
Yep, let's get back over there.
All right, me and Nick had to pivot. We come over to our plan B spot. This is the area where we put those 2 cameras out yesterday. And last night, we had a nice buck come out in the back of this bean field. This bean field runs all the way down to the end of that timber line. It's another 400 yards down there. We put a camera up here on a stick, on like a little stick and pick type deal, and then I put another one down there. And I pointed the cameras just across this bean field. As you can see, it's really long, but it's pretty narrow. So we pointed the cameras across the field, and we got a picture of a couple does and a nice buck coming out of the back corner last night. The wind last night was coming like this. Tonight it's blowing like this. So we're not going to be able to go clear to that corner. We're going to have to tuck into these woods and kind of hedge our wind a little bit. But as you can tell, we've been using cameras a lot on this hunt, especially on those little sticks. The ones that I have, I bought them off Amazon. They're like HME brand, I think. They're like 30 bucks a piece. But the thing that reminds me of them is a stick and pick. My buddy Scott Pruka used to use them all the time. He'd put them in his food plots out on his private land. And most of the time I don't like using them out here because my cameras get stolen. But when we're just monitoring a field or a trail or something for a couple of days, I feel like the risk of theft goes down a lot. Not to mention it's like frigid cold out here and not many people are out in the public right now. So that's what I've been using a lot in the last 5 days of this hunt. And we've gained quite a bit of information from the cameras. A lot of times cameras take your focus away from, the stuff you really need to be worried about, which is woodsmanship. But in this case, we're able to monitor some of these areas with the cameras and get valuable information. And if the buck does what he did last night, he'll come right back out on this field. We'll see. We got to find a good setup up here. These bucks have been very patternable late season. That spot we've been hunting that Thomas is in right now, that he beat us to. Those bucks have been coming out every night for the last 3 days. So I'm hoping this buck does the same thing again and he doesn't smell us, because we don't have the perfect wind. But sometimes when you got the great equalizer, you can hedge your wind a little bit and still kill them. So we'll see.
I don't know if it's just because this bend in the field we're in right now.
Probably
Felt
just swirling.
Feels like, when we got in this corner, it's going like that.
I feel like if we're out there,
Not a lot of cover around this.
not much cover. It is higher up though. We might just have to make a quick adjustment later in the evening. We're going to sit back at that cedar, but there's a little bit of a drop off right here. So we moved up just a hair. It's either that or we can go back and grab the saddles and get in that thing. I think we're going to get busted either way.
We're going to be pushing it on time if we do the saddles, I think.
Yeah. I think we'll just make this work. I mean, we ain't got a lot of... The back cover's fine from deer coming from that way. If deer get out here in front of us, though, they may see us fidgeting around. So we need to stand and get as tight to Small buck. That's that. Wanted to come out right at last light to make sure that he didn't swerve us in this field or something and come out up there. He didn't come out. There was three does and a little buck up there. That's the conclusion to the mud season for me and Nick. Pretty disappointed, but what do? You don't get them every time. We zigged when we should have zagged.
Every time.
Every time. If we'd have been a minute sooner last night, we'd have got our chance, but that's it. If I could go back, which obviously I can't, I would have spent less time fooling with these food plots. It's just one of those lessons that's taken me multiple failures to learn. But if you're chasing food plot deer on public land, they're just getting hunted. Like there still is some big bucks that use the food plots, obviously from, as you could see from the cameras in our hunt last night. But the mature ones that are using these things are few and far between. I mean, you might find 1 in 8 or 10 of them. I mean, I've scouted a dozen of them during this late mud season. And the one that we hunted last night was the only one that I felt like we had a chance of killing a mature buck in daylight on. We haven't had super cold temperatures, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but these food plots, the deer just get used to hunters being around these things, especially a 5-6-year-old buck. And when me and Ted killed that really mature buck a couple years ago, it was 0 degrees out and he was eating locust pods right next to the bedding area. We watched bucks bed down in it that morning, and he was within 50-60 yards of those beds. I should have just stuck to that strategy from the get-go, and who knows, might not have had any luck whatsoever. Heck, this strategy would have worked if the bucks would have walked out 2 minutes sooner last night, or if we would have hunted it the night before that. But I got a whole pile of excuses that Nick's gonna have to listen to for the next 3 hours. Still had fun, got really close, and I should have had some meat in the freezer if I knew how to shoot. But that's that. You got any parting words of wisdom, Nick?
No, my hands are really cold.
I bet. Be anxious to hear from Thomas. Hopefully he got a chance at one of those bucks over in that field that we were going to hunt.
My phone keeps buzzing, so I got to check to see if it's him.
Yep. That's it for now. Ta-ta.